Colonization of India from trade to territory. In 1707, the last Mughal emperor Aurangzeb died, and after his death, the later Mughals were really weak. This gave way to the Britishers. Jahangir made a blunder by allowing the Britishers to trade in India without paying any custom duty. Thomas Roe represented Britain and he came to Jahangir to seek permission to trade. Jahangir allowed the Britishers to trade in India without paying any custom duty. So the Britishers, the Dutch, the French, the Portuguese, they all came to India. They all wanted to trade with India because they all were aware of muslin, textile, indigo, spices available in India. So the four powers who came to India were the Dutch, the French, the Portuguese, and the British. They established their trading centers mainly along the sea coast because they came through sea voyages. And their centers were called factories, and the officials of the companies were called factors. Each of them wanted to establish their monopoly. The British wanted to eliminate the Dutch, the French, and the Portuguese. The same goes for the French, the same goes for the Dutch. Each wanted their monopoly. Queen Elizabeth I issued a charter and stated that from Britain only the East India Company could trade in India. So, from Britain, it was only the East India Company trading in India, but then the Queen could not stop the French, the Dutch, the Portuguese, and they all were jealous of each other. There was rivalry. Each wanted to eliminate the other one. The East India companies were established in Masulipatam, Surat, along River Hooghly. The Portuguese were able to capture Goa. They were confined to Goa. The French and the Britishers were very, very powerful while Dutch left. Dutch were ousted from the Indian trade. They were out. The French and the Britishers were very, very powerful. There was a French officer, Dupleix, who was very powerful, and there was a British officer called Robert Clive, who was very powerful. However, the French company was dependent upon the French government for money, for finance, while the British East India Company was independent. The French East India Company had certain corrupt officials, while the British East India Company had dedicated officers. And so the French East India Company got a little weak. And when Carnatic Wars, three Carnatic Wars or three Anglo-French Wars were fought. Three Anglo-French Wars means three wars were fought between Britishers and the French. They are also known as Carnatic Wars because they took place in the region within the present state of Tamil Nadu. The French were defeated, and then the Britishers put a condition that Dupleix should be sent back to France because Dupleix was a very powerful and clever man, and this is how the Britishers were able to capture entire India, and French remained confined to Pondicherry, Puducherry. Then the Indians were mistaken. Like I told, Jahangir allowed the Britishers to trade without paying any custom duty. Mughal Emperor Farrukh Siyar also gave them right to import and export without paying any custom duty. So the Indians were mistaken. There were certain rulers like Murshid Quli Khan, Siraj-ud-Daulah, Ali Wardi Khan, they were strong and they did not like the Britishers, did not like the misusing of power by the Britishers. They did not appreciate the misusing of power by the Britishers. They did not like the fact that the Britishers were misusing their powers. They were making forts and claiming India's soil to be theirs. They were disobeying the kings, and the East India Company was allowed to trade without paying any custom duties. The officials of the East India Company started their private businesses and they also did not pay any custom duty. It meant huge loss of revenue for the kings and they started checking their powers. The first person to revolt against the Britishers was Siraj-ud-Daulah. When he became the Nawab of Bengal in 1756, he tried to check the powers of the Britishers. He did not like the Britishers interfering in the affairs of Bengal. He did not like their making of forts, and as a result, he attacked a factory at Kasim Bazar. It was an English factory at Kasim Bazar in Calcutta. It was attacked by Siraj-ud-Daulah. Then Robert Clive defeated Siraj-ud-Daulah in a treacherous way. That means he did certain cheatings. What did he do? He bribed Mir Jafar. Mir Jafar was the commander of Siraj-ud-Daulah. Then he bribed Jagat Seth, the richest banker, Omi Chand, a rich merchant, and as a result, when Siraj-ud-Daulah was on one side and the Britishers were on the other side in the Battle of Plassey. Plassey is a place in northeast India. Siraj-ud-Daulah was defeated and killed. He was defeated and killed because of Mir Jafar, disloyal commander of the army, Jagat Seth and Omi Chand. Then Mir Jafar became the ruler. When Mir Jafar became the ruler, he was just a puppet ruler in the hands of the Britishers. And he was also tired of fulfilling the never ending greed of the Britishers. They kept demanding money, gifts, etc. And so soon he was replaced by his own son in law, Mir Qasim. Now, Mir Qasim was not the sort of a man who could easily be suppressed. He also raised his voice like Siraj-ud-Daulah, and then he was removed from the position of the Nawab of Bengal, and rather Mir Jafar was again made the ruler of Bengal. Mir Qasim fled to Awadh and he entered into an alliance with the Nawab of Awadh, Siraj-ud-Daulah, and Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. So Mir Qasim, Siraj-ud-Daulah and Shah Alam II, they together fought against the Britishers in Buxar, and then their combined forces were defeated on 22nd October 1764, and with the victory in the Battle of Buxar, the East India Company got complete control of Bengal. They became the real masters of Bengal. Now, what were the major consequences of the Battle of Buxar? After the Battle of Buxar, Mir Qasim fled away. Shuja-ud-Daulah had to pay an indemnity of rupees 50 lakhs, and he also had to part with his two places. He had to give two places, Allahabad and Kara, to Shah Alam II. Actually, they asked Shuja-ud-Daulah to give two places to Shah Alam II to play the policy of divide and rule. Shah Alam II was very old. He was a Mughal emperor. He was asked to stay in a fort in Allahabad and he was promised an annual tribute of rupees 26 lakhs, which was never paid. He was actually imprisoned in that fort, and Nawab of Bengal was once again Mir Jafar, who had to look after the people, but then right to collect revenue, that is the Diwani right, was with the Britishers. After the Battle of Buxar, they got Diwani rights over Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. They collected revenue, and the Nawab, that is Amir Jafar, had to solve the problems of the people, but he had no money. All the money was taken away by the East India Company. They collected all the revenue. Finally, it was Warren Hastings who ended this dual system, and Bengal was brought under the direct control of the Britishers. So, this is how Bengal was brought under the control of the Britishers. After conquering Bengal, the company officials of a very humble background became very, very rich by exploiting the people of Bengal, and they were now called Nabobs. That means they became rich all of a sudden by exploiting the people of Bengal. Then, if I talk of Mysore, Mysore was under Hyder Ali and his son Tipu Sultan. Mysore is known for spices. Tipu Sultan had great terms with the French, and he stopped the export of spices, sandalwood, pepper, cardamom through the ports of his kingdom. And he did not allow the local traders to trade with the East India Company. Then the Britishers and Hyder Ali fought first Anglo-Mysore War, and Hyder Ali defeated the Britishers and Treaty of Madras was signed. Then once again the Britishers and Hyder Ali were at daggers drawn. They fought with each other because after the Treaty of Madras, the Britishers promised that they would always help Hyder Ali. But when the Marathas attacked Mysore, they never helped Hyder Ali. And so Hyder Ali fought with the Britishers in the Battle of Pollilur, and he defeated the Britishers. But then unfortunately Hyder Ali died while defeating the English forces in Chittor, and his son continued the war. And then the second Anglo-Mysore war ended in 1784 with the Treaty of Mangalore. So in the first one there was Treaty of Madras, in the second one there was Treaty of Mangalore. Then the third Anglo-Mysore was fought because the Britishers did not like the closeness of the French and Tipu Sultan. And in the third Anglo-Mysore war, Tipu Sultan was defeated. As a result, his two sons were taken as hostage by the Britishers, and they were basically taken by Lord Cornwallis. And then Lord Wellesley told the son of Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan, to enter into subsidiary alliance. He refused, and once again there was fourth Anglo-Mysore war, and Tipu Sultan died while trying to defeat the Britishers while defending his capital Seringapatam, and the Britishers were able to capture Mysore and they imposed subsidiary alliance. Then if I talk of Marathas were fighting amongst themselves. There were different dynasties like Gaikwads, Holkars, Bhosles, Sindhyas. They were fighting amongst themselves, and due to their disunity the Britishers were able to defeat the Marathas also. Then I have been telling you that Lord Wellesley told Tipu Sultan to enter into subsidiary alliance. So what is exactly subsidiary alliance? It was introduced by Lord Wellesley. According to this, the Indians had to disband their own army and rather station British army. And of course the British army would never raise arms against the Britishers. And they also had to pay, the Indian rulers also had to pay to the Britishers, because the Britishers had stationed their army for so-called protection, right? So in return the Indians had to pay money also. First they had to dissolve their own army, they had to station British army, they had to pay them money also, and if they failed to pay money, then a part of their territory would be taken away by the Britishers. Then a person called resident was stationed at the court, whose work was just to advise the king, but in reality He took all the important decisions. The kings could not entertain any other official of origin other than British. That means other than Britishers. No other foreign officer could be entertained in the court, and no two Indian rulers could negotiate with each other without the permission of the Britishers. The Nizam of Hyderabad was the first to enter into subsidiary alliance. Then Peshwa Bajirao too. Then various other Rajputana rulers had to enter into subsidiary alliance. Then Lord Hastings, Warren Hastings, who became the first Governor General, who also ended the dual system in Bengal and brought Bengal under the direct control of the British East India Company, introduced claiming paramountcy. According to this, the East India Company could capture any Indian state if it was for the benefit of the East India Company, and this is how they started capturing different places. Rani Chinnamma of Kittur also raised arms against the Britishers, but then she was also defeated through treachery. Then the Britishers tried to capture Afghanistan and Sindh when Russia was trying to establish control over Afghanistan. Then the Britishers also tried to establish control over Afghanistan and Sindh. They were able to capture Sindh, but they were not able to capture Afghanistan. Then after the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the last great ruler of Punjab, there was a lot of chaos. The ministers wanted to capture kingdom, and so it led to disunity and disintegration, and finally the Britishers took advantage, and the British under Lord Dalhousie captured Punjab in 1849. Then the Britishers the Britishers introduced doctrine of lapse, which was actually the brainchild of Lord Dalhousie. According to doctrine of lapse, they could annex any place if a ruler died without any natural heir. That means if a ruler died without any natural or biological son, then the kingdom would fall into the hands of the Britishers, and right to adoption was denied. The adopted son could not inherit the throne. Satara, Sambalpur, Jhansi were all annexed under this policy. Then Awadh. Awadh was one place which was in good terms with the Britishers. Wajid Ali Shah was in great terms with the Britishers, but then also they annexed Awadh, and people of Awadh were very, very infuriated because though the king was in good terms with the Britishers, then also they captured Awadh, stating that it was mismanaged, and when they came into power, they increased the taxes, they increased the revenue rate in Awadh. And this is how they captured various places. Then they captured entire India. Their three main presidencies were Bengal, Madras and Bombay. And Warren Hastings became the first Governor General of British India. Then they created districts. Collector was a very important person, and his office, Collectorate, emerged as the new center of power in the district. So in the district, collector was very important, and they needed trained officials for good administration. And before 1853, the board of directors used to choose the civil servants on their own, but after 1853 they started holding civil service examinations, but then they were held in London. Satyendranath Tagore, brother of Rabindranath Tagore, was the first to clear the ICS examination. Then there was police. The district was divided into various police stations or thanas. Each was managed by an inspector or daroga. In the towns and villages, there were kotwals, chowkidars, and in the district we had DSP also, District Superintendent of Police. Then the Britishers introduced criminal courts, civil courts. They introduced courts mainly in Bengal, that means in Kolkata, then Bombay, Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. And then the Supreme Court was established by them in Kolkata. Then they prepared Hindu law book, Muslim law book, and then finally they compiled and formed Indian Penal Code. The Judiciary was their brainchild. Then they introduced, army, where there were Indian soldiers and the British soldiers. But though the British soldiers were less in number and Indian soldiers were more in number, but then the Indian soldiers were paid very less. They could not rise above the post of Subedar. They were given very inferior kind of food and accommodation, and the Britishers exploited India, and this has beautifully been described in Dadabhai Naroji's book Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. They took advantage of disunity amongst the Indians, and so it is rightly said, united we stand and divided we fall. With this, I wind up the chapter. Thank you and have a great day ahead.